A pleasant good morning, the Honorable John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize, his ministers, Minister of State, and members, to the Leader of the Opposition, his members, Madam Speaker. Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, who through Jesus Christ has revealed your glory to all nations, please protect and preserve Belize, our beloved country. God of might, wisdom, and justice, please assist our Belizean government and people with your Holy Spirit of counsel and fortitude. Let the light of your divine wisdom direct their plans and endeavors, so that with your help we may attain our just objectives. With your guidance, may all our endeavors tend to peace, social justice, liberty, national happiness, and increase of industry, sobriety, and useful knowledge. We pray, O God of mercy, for all of us that we may be blessed in the knowledge and sanctified in the observance of your most holy law, that we may be preserved in union and in that peace which the world itself cannot give. And after enjoying the blessing of this life, please admit us, dear Lord, to the eternal reward that you have prepared for those who love you. Amen.
Announcement by the Speaker.
Good morning, members. Today's House meeting is occurring on International Women's Day. It would be remiss of me, as Belize's fourth female presiding officer of the House, to not provide a few remarks on this particular day that we meet. It is important, especially as leaders, for us to take time on this day and during this month to reflect not only on the strides Belize has made in improving the gender gap, in working towards gender parity and gender representation, but to recommit on efforts to fight discrimination, to combat gender-based violence, which continues to be sadly an awful scourge in our small society, to improve on the language and choice of words we use, and to remain resilient and persistent in the fight for human rights and women's rights, not just by words and pledges, but through action, for which as parliamentarians the legislature provides for. As the presiding officer for the House of Representatives, I don't need to look very much farther than this chamber to underscore the point that Belize has a lot of work ahead to meet the goal of inclusion envisioned in this year's country theme for Women's Month of Inspire Inclusion, Count Her In. And when we are placed in the position of leadership, as 23 women were in the recent municipal elections, approximately 35% of the total seats, or the 4 women who were elected to the House, approximately 13%, it cannot be treated lightly or taken for granted, especially when there are many Belizean women, current and in our history, who have sacrificed, volunteered, and continue to fight to be included, represented, and heard. Some have been recognized, but so many remain unsung heroes. And so to all Belizean women, home and abroad, today and this month is set aside to celebrate and to take stock of where we are. I take this opportunity to wish the women in Parliament, the women at all levels of leadership, the women across the length and breadth of Belize, a happy International Women's Day. I take the opportunity to thank those men as well who recognize the importance of inclusion, who genuinely support the call to accelerate progress for gender parity, human rights, and who work with us to improve Belize's standing. Now, while there are international reports such as the 2023 Global Gender Gap Index published by the World Economic Forum, that suggests it will take a century before gender parity is reached across the globe, I prefer to close by expressing my desire for Belize and Parliament to work harder and recommit toward improving its own measures for Belize by next year's International Women's Day. It is an ongoing struggle, a journey with hills and valleys, but we must remain persistent, resilient, and determined to make the change and to be the change that we want to see. Members, I thank you for your indulgence and happy International Women's Day. Members, I also take the opportunity to recognize that we have a fairly large presence in the gallery, which is not something that we often have since times of COVID, most especially since we live stream. So I welcome visitors for your participation, your attendance at today's House meeting. Clerk?
Madam Speaker,
Clerk? One second.
Madam Speaker, if you would also allow me to also to say something on as we celebrate International Women's Day. If you allow me, just read a short message from Rosanna, my wife as the special envoy. It's a short message, and Madam Speaker, maybe she might kill me for doing this because I did not ask for her permission. As she said, it says, as we celebrate International Women's Day, let us reflect on the sacrifices, hard work, and progress that women made in our society. Belize, like many countries around the world, is home to extraordinary women who have made and continue to make significant contributions to our Belizean story. From our early history to the present day, women have played pivotal roles in shaping our nation's culture, traditions, politics, infrastructure, and economy. This year's theme, Inspire Inclusion, Counter In, serves as a call to action for all of us to recognize and ensure that women are included and given a space in all aspects of our society. It is a reminder that women's voices, ideas, and perspectives matter and should be welcomed in all aspects of life. It is about recognizing that women, like men, are an integral part of our country and communities, and therefore must be fully represented, included, respected, and appreciated. Still, we cannot talk about inclusion without addressing the challenges that women face in their daily lives. Despite the significant strides made in recent years to promote gender equality at home and across the world, women's rights and opportunities are still limited, with women being more likely to be the target of discrimination, violence, and inequality. Although these obstacles threaten women's progress, we have seen the power of women's voices and their ability to break barriers, shatter stereotypes, and change the world. Therefore, this Women's Month, let us honor the legacies of the women who have come before us by taking meaningful action to inspire and empower the next generation of women. Let us commit creating workplaces, communities, and spaces where women are encouraged and supported to embrace their talents and potential. Let us be an ally to all women by challenging stereotypes and biases whenever we encounter them. As a nation, we must commit to creating a more equitable and just society where all women have the opportunity to contribute fully to the development of Belize. Together, let us inspire inclusion, counter in, and work towards a brighter future for all Belizeans. Madam Speaker, I wish I could say these are my words, but this is the word of the Special Envoy, Rosanna Briceño. That said, let's make Women's Day every day. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Clerk?
Bills brought from the Senate.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Science and Technology.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to move that the House now consider the Senate amendment. This is the Summary Jurisdiction Offenses Amendment Bill 2023.
Honorable members, in accordance with Standing Order 60, the question is that the House do now consider the Senate amendments. All those in favor, kindly say aye. Aye. Those against, kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Summary Jurisdiction Amendment Bill. Clauses 3. Clause 3, paragraph 4A, 11. Insert the words members of Cabinet and the National Assembly immediately after the word official.
Honorable members, the question is that the amendment as proposed by the Senate to the Summary Jurisdiction Offenses Amendment Bill 2023 be accepted. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
Madam Speaker, this is the Criminal Code Amendment Number 2 Bill 2023. I rise to move that the House do now consider the Senate amendment.
Honorable members, in accordance with Standing Order 60, the question is that the House do now consider the Senate amendments. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Criminal Code Amendment Number 2 Bill, Clause 2. In Clause 2, paragraph A, 11, insert the words members of the Cabinet and National Assembly immediately after the word official.
Honorable members, the question is that the amendment as proposed by the Senate to the Criminal Code Amendment Number 2, Bill 2023 be accepted. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Papers.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present and lay on the table sessional papers HR 245/1/13, the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure for fiscal year 2024-2025, and number HR 246/1/13, contract between Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment and Overseas Engineering and Construction Company Limited, SA.
Clerk, 1 second. Honorable members, sessional paper number HR 245/1/13 is referred to the Committee of Supply for examination, consideration, and report. And sessional paper number HR 246/1/13 is ordered to lie on the table. I recognize the Honorable Minister of Public Utilities, Logistics, and E-Governance.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present and lay on the table sessional paper number HR 247/1/13, Electricity Tariffs, Fees and Charges Amendment by Law 2024.
Honorable members, that paper is ordered to lie on the table.
Introduction of bills.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development, Investment, Blue Economy, Civil Aviation, and Immigration.
Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to appropriate certain sums of money for the use of the public service of Belize for the financial year ending March 31st, 2025. Madam Speaker, this bill has the recommendation of the Cabinet.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to appropriate certain sums of money for the use of the public service of Belize for the financial year ending March 31st, 2025 be read a first time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Bill for an act to appropriate certain sums of money for the use of the public service of Belize for the financial year ending 31st day of March 2025.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 12.8, I move that the proceedings on the order paper may be entered upon and proceeded with at this day's sitting at any hour due opposed.
Honorable members, the question is that the proceedings on the order paper may be entered upon and proceeded with at this day's sitting at any hour, though opposed. All those in favor, kindly say aye. Aye. Those against, kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, in moving the second reading of the General Revenue Appropriation 2024-2025 Bill 2024, I seek your indulgence to deliver the budget speech from the podium. Good morning everyone. Madam Speaker, first please allow me to acknowledge our newly elected mayors from San Pedro, Arinjoactong, Benke, Dangriga, Belmopan, and also Belize City. I think we only have, and Corozal, where is Corozal? Oh yes. And I don't see Baraobia. I mean, but he kind of live, can I leave far? Maybe he's on the way. Yeah. You really don't want to start me up. You really don't want to start me up, right? The leader of the opposition. Yes. I think, Madam Speaker, the honorable member from Freetown said it best. We need to do to the leader of the opposition what the people of this country did. They ignored him, so I will continue to ignore him. You can't take away 0 from 0, so you never lose nothing. You can't even count. If you talk about 9 that he may win, 9 municipalities. And he win 9 seats, much less 9 constituents, 9 municipalities. So anyway, let me move on, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to present to this House and to the nation a performance report on the public finances and the Belizean economy for the fiscal year 2023-2024, and to present the national budget proposals for the new fiscal year starting 1st April 2024 through 31st March 2025. Good morning, honorable member from Colette and my brother from Corozal North. You could give him some lessons. Today's performance report, quite by coincidence, comes at an opportune moment. A few days ago, on the 27th of February, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, issued a staff concluding statement following their annual review of government's fiscal accounts and economic performance. This review is commonly referred to as the Article 4 Summary Report. During this exercise, IMF experts met extensively with both public and private sector representatives. Those of us on this side of the House are especially pleased with the IMF report. Not because we agree with the IMF's philosophy as such, but because, based on timing and status, their report provides independent verification that the policies pursued by this People's United Party administration are yielding unprecedented results for the Belizean people. The IMF statement confirms that this administration is on the right track. Let us start with economic growth. The statement projects 2023 economic expansion of 4.5%. This is on the heels of 8.7% growth in 2022 and 17.9% growth in 2021. These rates of growth average 10.4% over the last 3 years. Real GDP, the statement asserts, was 16% above pre-pandemic levels. Then there is the employment picture. With 183,000 strong labor force, unemployment declined from 14% in 2020 to 3.4% in 2023. In other words, for every 100 persons seeking a job, between 96 and 97 have been able to find some form of paid work. The IMF statement also reports that the public debt now stands at 66% of GDP. When this administration took office, the debt was as high as 132%. Imagine the previous Prime Minister was saying that he was going to grieve and he was going to weep for this government. But even though that the PUP is about work and about results. So that's why, Madam Speaker, in just over 3 years, we have literally cut in half what the country owes as a percentage of annual GDP. Inflation. The increase in consumer prices fell in 2023 to 4.4%, down from 6.3% in 2022. And crucially, the primary budget balance, according to the IMF, remains at positive 0.8% of GDP, positive for the third consecutive year since this government took office. What is equally impressive, Madam Speaker, is the IMF's forward-looking projections. They expect Belize's GDP to expand to 3.5% this year. They expect the unemployment rate to stay at 3.4% over the medium term as the economy remains at full employment. They expect inflation to come down further to 3.1% and to 1.3% over the medium term. They project further reduction in the debt to GDP ratio falling below 60% in 2028. And they expect a positive primary balance for the national budget in each of the next 5 years. There you have it, Madam Speaker. For sure, 2023 was an outstanding year for the public finances and for the economy. And the IMF's world's foremost multilateral examiner projects that Belize is on a path to ongoing prosperity, prolonged full employment, lower inflation and public debt, and a strong Belize dollar underpinning sustainable budget cycles into the medium term. There is no precedent, I dare say, in the almost 43-year history of independent Belize where so much has been achieved in 3 short years. And that the future augurs such confidence, stability, and progress. That's why they say pan truck. But there is something else, Madam Speaker, something we all know, that the ultimate decider or the best barometer are our amazing Belizean people. It was just 2 days ago, the Belizean people in our 9 cities and towns went to the polls and said with a clear voice that we want to stay on track. Our democracy is strong and vibrant, and I would like to thank all who voted and all those men and women who offered themselves as candidates in the municipal elections. For sure, 61 of 67 seats is a reaffirmation of Plan Belize. Let me repeat, 61 of 67 seats is a reaffirmation of Plan Belize and the people's confidence in this PUP administration. The people have spoken. The IMF has issued their statement. The national report card of sorts offers a felicitous stage from which I can now set out in more detail Belize's overall 2023 performance and the accelerating plans for the new budget year. During 2023, global economic growth slowed but remained resilient amidst multiple headwinds, including the Russia-Ukraine war, higher cost of living, tighter financial conditions, and extreme weather events. The IMF projected that global economic activity slowed to 3.0% in 2023 from 3.5% in 2022. For 2024, the IMF expects global growth to remain steady at 3.1%. Global inflation, a critical concern in these post-COVID years, is expected to ease during 2024 due to resolved supply-side issues and still tight monetary policies. However, the threat of new commodity price spikes still looms, owing to the continued geopolitical tensions and possible weather shocks. According to the Caribbean Development Bank, economic growth in the Caribbean region also slowed down in 2023, growing by 5.7% compared to 10.3% in 2022. This figure, an average for the region, is severely bloated by Guyana's 40% growth rate, fueled by that country's petroleum bonanza. Despite the ongoing tourism recovery, the regional deceleration was mainly attributed to spillover effects from a weaker external environment and the impact on natural disasters. Growing projections for the region indicates an acceleration to 7.6% in 2024, again in no small part due to Guyana's 35% projected growth, and supported by the robust post-pandemic rebound in tourism and moderate increases in remittances inflows from the region. Latin America's collective economy expanded by a modest 2.2% in 2023 and is expected to grow by a meager 1.9% in 2024. Petroleum is such a critical commodity since Belize imports all of our needs. We must therefore keep constant sight of this price volatility. The average cost of a barrel of oil in 2023 was US $74.64, approximately $17 less than 2022. Unfortunately, the 2024 projected price for a barrel is $82, which will be 6% higher than last year. Let me now set out the performance of the national budget for the current fiscal year 2023-2024. For the year ending March 2024, government expects total revenue and grants of $1,438,756,876, which is $29.7 million higher than approved by the National Assembly. Here is a breakdown. Recurrent revenue, $1.418 billion, capital revenues, $6.2 million, and grants, $14.1 million. Government expects total expenditures of $1.49 billion in this fiscal year, with recurrent expenditures of $1.12 billion, capital expenditures of $378.2 million, and amortization payments of $126.8 million. The financing necessary for this budget year is expected to total $186.9 million. The primary surplus for the fiscal year is projected at $75.3 million, or 1.22% of GDP, significantly better than the $24.5 million originally programmed. The overall deficit in dollar terms is $60 million, representing 0.97% of GDP. Now, Madam Speaker, let me directly address the matter of the cost of living. One of the complaints I have heard most often while visiting Belizeans is the increase in the cost of living, or inflation. As I mentioned earlier, the projection is for inflation to level off and at least not outpace increases in wages. The inescapable fact is that domestic purchasing power has been eroded by an increase in international prices. This is an issue that Cabinet has grappled with constantly. I have listened to the anguish of Belizeans on this issue, and I understand their frustration. The dollar is just not stretching the way it used to. But this is not the fault of government. A recent in-depth analysis commissioned by government shows that 3/4 of the price increases Belizeans endure comes from imports. For example, government has no control over the cost of flour or fertilizer or a barrel of petroleum or steel for construction. Neither do we have control over the cost of shipping containers to Belize. What we have done to combat inflation is to put more money in the pockets of hourly wage workers. 42,000. 42,956 workers have received a $1.70 or a 51% per hour salary increase by increasing the minimum wage to $5 per hour. I knew this, they have this saying that, a rising tide raises all ships. What has happened to the labor market? And we spoke to it with the IMF. They're saying now that because the minimum wage has gone up, wages have been going up all across. Why? Because now call centers, when they were paying at $5 an hour, now they have to pay between $8 and $9 an hour as entry level. And then tourism, and the minister from Big Stock would always remind us, now because people are leaving their jobs working in the tourism industry to go and work at the call center because they're paying better, they also have to raise their salaries to be able to keep their employees. A few months ago, I was talking to Michael Bowen at the inauguration of Margaritaville Resort, and he was telling me the same thing, that he could no longer pay $5 an hour. His entry-level salary is again between $8 and $9. So, because of that one bold decision that we did as a cabinet, I could remember the experts are saying, oh, we have to do a study. And then we're supposed to wait contract to make them go study this. I remember the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry was saying, well, we support the increase in the minimum wage, but let us roll it out over time. This government made the bold decision to increase immediately to $5 an hour. Sorry? Yes, and we have increased the regulation of price control and get public officers to ensure that we try to hold on these prices as much as possible. But I'm coming to that. We reinstated the increments of public officers. And we have cracked down, as what we said earlier, Minister of Agriculture, we have cracked down on price gouging by greedy merchants. For example, as recently as the 28th of February, 35 businesses in San Pedro and Kikaka were handed citations by the Suppliers Control Unit for pricing violation. This campaign will continue, as will our campaign to buy Belizean products to make this country more self-sufficient. Cabinet and I will continue to take every step possible to control the erosion of the purchasing power of the Belize dollar. As I highlighted in my introduction, according to the IMF, the public debt stood at 66.3% of GDP, or some $4.335 billion. Never should we abstain from the memory of where this administration met the public debt. 132% at its peak in 2020, with the then UDP government borrowing $1 million a day just to meet the salaries of public officers. Today, the debt is projected to stand at 58% of GDP in 2029. And it was the government's good credit standing that allowed us to access the financing in 2023 to purchase the Port of Belize and return that prized asset to public ownership. That decisive move resulted in a rise in the domestic debt to $1.508 billion. External debt at the close of 2023 stood at $2.832 billion. In 2023, government paid $101.1 million in interest payments and almost an identical amount, $100.7 million in principal repayments. There are two very important debt conditions to highlight. First, the effective interest rate on the public debt is 2.3%, a rate that by any measure is spectacularly low. This low rate is not a stroke of luck. It is a result of prudent borrowing from only the most concessionary sources, namely multilateral and bilateral lenders. This government has recoiled from any form of commercial borrowing, conscientious always of minimizing the price attendant to public loans. Because of this diligence, interest payment on the public debt is not projected to exceed 2.2% of GDP well into the next decade. For emphasis, consider that the U.S. debt is at 2.4% of GDP on debt interest in 2024, 4.5% in the case of the United Kingdom, 5% for Jamaica in fiscal year 2022-23. The second notable condition is that interest payment in 2023 represented 7 cents of every dollar of revenue and grants. That figure is 17 cents in the US for 2024, 10 cents for the UK, 13 cents in Jamaica. The following examples of 2023 loan inflows reflect the highly cautious nature of this administration's borrowing approach. $95 million from traditional multilateral lenders, such as the IDB, the CDB, and the World Bank. $68 million in loans and grants from Taiwan, and $4 million from the QET Fund. Madam Speaker, many advances were achieved in 2023 by our teams at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, but one breakthrough demands special mention: Belize's eligibility for accessing funds from the International Development Association, IDA. Under the World Bank umbrella. It was unfortunate that Belize was not deemed eligible for these funds. But what is even more unfortunate, Madam Speaker, is that the previous government for 13 years did nothing to try to right this injustice for Belize. So after 2 years of non-stop lobbying, a few weeks ago, Belize's application for a Smile Island Economies was approved. Thank you. You could clap, you know. You could clap, you know. You could clap. Belize IDA borrowing allocation is immediately $22 million US, and with the potential to increase to $67 million US over a 3-year period, with exceptional terms of 40-year repayment period, 10-year grace period, and an annual service charge, not even interest, service charge of 0.75%. I must commend the perseverance of the former Foreign Minister, Eamon Courtney, and Minister Chris Koyi, and their supporting cast for this great achievement for Belize. We do not, nor should we take for granted the stability of our financial sector. The strength of our Belize dollar, a 2-to-1 US dollar peg, established and defended since 1976, is a solid rock upon which our country's economic and fiscal edifice resides. In 2023 ended with central bank reserves of $947 million, or 4.1 months of import cover, well beyond the 3-month recommended reserve levels. If I may again cite the recent IMF report, the financial soundness indicators strengthened in 2023. Between 2022 and 2023, the domestic bank's regulatory capital rose from 15.1% of risk-weighted assets to 16.1%. Non-performing loans fell from 6.9% of total loans to 5.2%, and returns on assets rose from 0.3% to 1.5%. Several major financial system modernization initiatives spearheaded by the Central Bank of Belize are worthy of mention. First, the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, which aims to equip every individual and enterprise with access, quality, and affordable financial services. In 2023, connection to the Shared Services Network, the SSN, to the Automated Payment and Securities Settlement System was effected. This allows for easier flow of payments among bankers and credit unions and expanded services to credit union members. Simplified customer due diligence guidelines was also put in place, and the credit reporting system project was restarted. Second, the Central Bank started a project with the World Bank to broaden the financial ecosystem and enhance the modes for quicker payments. This project will facilitate immediate availability of funds to the beneficiary, which will include individuals, businesses, e-commerce, or government agencies. I commend the Governor, the Central Bank's board chairman and members, and the bank's management and staff for their commitment to excellence. It is noteworthy that the Central Bank's economists entertain an even more positive economic outlook for 2024. They project that following 3 years of sustained growth, GDP for 2024 will expand by 4.1%. This solid growth level will be propped up by a full recovery in stayover tourist arrivals to pre-pandemic levels, a resurgence in agricultural production, and renewed manufacturing activity. You do one thing, big stock. And it paid off Wednesday, right? Now how much you win? The primary sector is expected to grow by 4.1%, improving noticeably over 2023's outturn. Agricultural production will see a pronounced upturn due to enhancements in husbandry practices, the expectation of near-normal weather patterns, and continued expansion in non-traditional commodities. Specifically, Banana production will rebound as the industry reins in the spread of black sigatoka disease, while added contributions from the Western Mill will boost growth in sugarcane deliveries. Secondary sector activity is projected to grow by 4.7%, following rebounds in manufacturing and construction output. Benefiting from enhanced agro-processing activities, beverage and food production, manufacturing is projected to rebound sharply from a contraction in 2023 to a 3.0% growth rate in 2024. Similarly, heightened importation of building materials and institutional lending will prop up construction activity. Lastly, recovery from the previous year's downturn in domestic electricity production will support strong growth, further contributing to secondary sector growth. The tertiary sector is forecasted to grow by a healthy 4.5%, as total stayover arrivals for the year are projected to surpass the 2019 pre-pandemic levels. The continued growth in tourism will contribute heavily to growth in the transportation, accommodation, and retail trade sub-industries. Private sector activity is projected to expand, with BPOs remaining a main contributor to growth. Heartened by these glowing expectations, I will now outline the estimates of revenues and expenditures for the new financial year 2024-2025. Let me emphasize at the onset that once again, as has been the case for the last 3 national budgets, there are no new taxes in this budget. The Ministry of Finance projects total revenues and grants of $1.51 billion, comprised of $1.387 billion in tax revenues, $95.29 million in non-tax revenues, capital revenues of $6 million, and grants of $30 million. Revenues are comprised of $791.6 million collected from goods and services, $365.4 million collected from income and profits, $223.5 million collected from international trade and transactions accounting, and $7.17 million collected on property accounting. On the expenditure side, a total of $1.604 billion is proposed. Of this sum, approximately $1.1 billion will be recurrent spending covering wages, pensions, goods and services, subsidies, and transfers and debt service interest costs. In addition to recurrent costs, $430.7 million is programmed for capital investment during the new fiscal year, of which some $146.5 million are so-called Capital 3 funding drawn down from the various loans and grants already approved. $130 million is the amount projected for amortization payments. That is the repayment of principal on loans already contracted. The primary surplus is projected at $30.6 million, or 0.46% of GDP, while the overall deficit is projected at $85.842 million, or 1.3% of GDP. Let me put this in perspective for all of us to better understand the purpose of each dollar government spends. 30 cents of every dollar will be for the wages of public officers. 7 cents of every dollar for public officers' pensions. 18 cents of every dollar for operational costs to government, such as utilities and transportation. 7 cents for interest on loans. And the remaining 27 cents for capital expenditures, which includes the funding of all projects and programs undertaken by government. In effect, 73 cents of every dollar simply keep the machinery of governance running, leaving 27 cents of every dollar for programs and projects. Now, when we took office in 2020, the percentage of total spending available for programs and projects was at 23 cents on the dollar spent. In just 3 years then, we have managed to shrink government's operating costs by more than 5%, allowing more money to finance programs and projects that will benefit the people. Madam Speaker, ministers will have the opportunity to debate the budget proposals in granular form. And so I shall refrain from stealing their thunder, with the following exceptions. Please forgive me. I would highlight some of the larger capital projects, outline the program pipeline, and provide a more substantive description of our initiatives in the arena of healthcare and education. First then, to a sampling of the principal capital projects that will be included in this year's public investment program. Of course, these all line up with Belize's medium-term development strategy, as well as the overarching goals of Plan Belize. $35 million to fund the continued expansion of NHI. $3.5 million for hemodialysis support programs. $21 million to help fund the growing payables related to UDP land acquisitions. $10 million for the repair and maintenance of major highways. $7.5 million to support the ongoing expansion of solid waste transfer stations. $6 million for low-income homes and housing repairs. $5.7 million for another phase of the PSW Golston Highway rehabilitation. $4 million for the upgrading of the Guinea Grass Road, the paving of the road, Abimai. Yes. Not $5 million, that's just the start. Remember, blame the one beside you. $5 million for the improvement of the George Price Highway from Belize City to Bamapan and San Ignacio to Benqueville del Carmen. $2 million for the Progressor Road. We're just starting it, Honorable Member, and we'll do some more. We're going to pave the entire road all the way to Progressor. $3 million for grocery and food assistance programs. $2 million for sports. $2.5 million for land surveys. And $6 million for the upgrading of rural roads and bridges. $3 million for village streets. $7 million for upgrade streets in towns and cities. $4 million for the Lucky Strike to Mascal Road. $4 million for the anti-violence program. $1 million for additional equipment for the police department. $2.7 million for agriculture and sugar roads. And we have not forgotten you, honorable member from Toledo West. Still do you street the road. Don't forget you. 19, we don't forget you. We will finish the road to Lubantun. This government like you. This government like you. Huh? 19 projects. These and many other activities and undertakings will come from the basis of the $430.7 million that is being allocated. That is being allocated for capital spending in this fiscal year. The policy, planning, and climate finance units in the Ministry of Economic Development coordinate an impressive array of donors and lenders in support of building economic, environmental, and social resiliency for Belize. I wish to outline a few of the more notable aspirations, some of which occupy our current budget investment line, others soon to be endorsed by Cabinet and this Honorable House. First, the World Bank. There is the Belize Blue Economy Project. This $30 million project is for the improvement of Belize's management capacity for sustainable development of its blue economy and increase access to climate resilient and sustainable water and sanitation services in targeted coastal areas. Second, and also with the World Bank, is the $129 million Belize Renewable Integration and Energy Resilient System project. This project will develop new renewable energy generation to build our resiliency in electricity generation that can withstand extreme climates by strengthening the national transmission infrastructure. Third is the rudimentary water system upgrade for improvements to water supply systems in Shunush, Georgeville, Mahogany Heights, and San Antonio, Toledo. Again, members of this project, funded through the CARICOM Development Fund, comprises small-scale infrastructure works and capacity building for key stakeholders. Fourth, with the Inter-American Development Bank, there is a $40 million Skills for the Future program. The objective of this project is to contribute to the closing of the skills gap to prepare tomorrow's workforce for the fourth industrial revolution. We have to continue to invest in the development of our people, Madam Speaker. Fifth, also the IDB, is a $17 million project for improving efficiency, quality, and access in Belize's health system. The objective of this project is to improve the health of the population in Belize through increased efficiency, quality, and access to health services. Sixth is the Promoting Sustainable Growth in the Blue Economy Program, another project in partnership with IDB. This is a $14 million program to improve the income generation capacity of artisanal fisher folks and to maintain export levels of fisheries products while contributing to the sustainable use of commercial oceanic resources. Then there is a $78 million project for building the adaptive capacity of sugarcane farmers in northern Belize. I'm sure the Minister of Agriculture will be able to give some more explanation. So, another see that on the Abby. $10 million. Building community resilience via transformative adaptation. The Northern Burgess Key wastewater project, valued at $300 million, where government expects to access the first 100 million Belize dollars in grant funding for the GCF. The previous government used to get grant funding, and they never know if to do with it. They used to lose the money. Remember when I get money for the hospital here in Bemopan from the EU? They lose money. Remember they had monies for sugar roads and to pave many of the roads up in the north? They never know how to use it. They lose it. And yes, that easy money because they could have spend the money how they want. And then remember, Minister of Agriculture, the Agriculture Resilience Program, remember when we got in, it was I think $20 million that they were about to lose. The rural development. We almost lost it. I remember Dr. Marcelino Avila brought it to my attention. He said, if we don't move, we are going to lose this 20 million free money that the UDP had available in 2017. But they want to spend Petro-Caribbean money because they don't have to give proper accounting. I wish you would know, that I know. And there's more. The $20 million resilient rural Belize, remember I just talked about, to promote climate-smart agricultural production. The Building Community Resilience via Transformative Adaptation project valued at $5 million. Belize's second adaptation fund project was approved and will begin implementation in 2024. The first disbursement of funds was received on the 2nd of February of 2024. This project aims to build community resilience via transformative adaptation and specifically will work to improve Belize's long-term capacity to protect communities from climate threats posed by drought, unpredictable weather availability, floods, and improve wildfire management. And lastly, a project for the use of nature-based solutions to increase resilience to extreme climate events in the Atlantic region of Central America. Madam Speaker, further explanations of all these projects form a part of the text of the budget speech, and I'm sure that the individual ministers, when they present in 2 weeks' time, will be able also to talk and explain and give more in-depth explanation on these projects. Now, turning to my favorite minister, the Minister of Health. Turning now to health and wellness. Among the highest core priorities of this administration is the provision of health and wellness care and services. Based on this conviction, so many massive investments are being made across the public healthcare system. These investments include, for example, CABE's funding of a modernization assessment of hospitals in Punta Gorda, Orangewachtong, and Belize City. This needs assessment will be followed by project financing to implement the modernization projects. Only last week, accompanied by the area representative and our mayor of San Pedro, we broke ground for the new hospital in San Pedro and Burgess Key. How many times will we vote the money in the National Assembly? Former Deputy Prime Minister could remind me. We bring this about 3 times in the budget that we're going to build, but it was never built. But this government, through the cooperative program with Taiwan, government will invest $33.4 million in a first-class, fully equipped hospital. As the saying goes, then talk, we work.
That's right.
Then promise, we deliver. Exactly. Say it, brother. Amen. And then there is the $90 million this administration has secured in concessionary funding from the Saudi Fund for Development for the construction of a tertiary care hospital here in Belmopan. The selection process for the design and supervision of this new facility will be completed by the end of this month, and a contract signed in April of this year. And this focus by government has itself inspired a number of private sector healthcare investments to the tune of tens of millions and hundreds of high-paying jobs. Expansions of Belize Medical Associates and healthcare partners in Belize City, and the recently inaugurated Hope Hospital in San Pedro exemplify these expansions. Perhaps the public healthcare program with the greatest potential impact on citizen wellness is the National Health Insurance Program. Let the record show that the NHI was started under the former Prime Minister Said Musa and the People's United Party government. And in the 13 years of the UDP government, they did very little in trying to expand this much needed program. Well, Madam Speaker, I am thoroughly elated that the NHI program has been piloted on south side of Belize City and then the southern region, and has now been expanded to the Corozal district and now in Arinjuak district, where 20,000 Arinjuakeños have registered with the 3 primary care providers that have been contracted. These primary care providers in Arinjuak will be supported by 6 laboratories, 2 imaging providers, and 3 pharmacies, all ensuring that our citizens receive optimal care. And this year, the NHI committee proposes expanding the program to the north side of Belize City, where an estimated 65,000 citizens will be eligible for services under the NHI Care Shield. Altogether, NHI funding for the fiscal year 2024-2025 will total $35 million, encompassing the geographic areas of Corozal, Arinjuak, Stan Creek, Toledo, and the Belize district, including Kikaka and Ambergris Key. And we recommit that early next year, because of the $12 million in profits from Fui Bolido, the entire Cayo district will see the rollout of the National Health Insurance thanks to this PUP administration. Take the maths. 12 times 10, that's $120 million the Prince in the bank, for the first 10 years. and they may expect to make another 120 million. Remember for myself, you ever get some 120 million for your campaign? No? You never get it? No? Hmm? Which Taiwan? You. Tech, you're beating like a man. Be a man. Health, Madam Speaker, health is wealth, as the old adage counsels. Wealth for families, wealth for communities, and wealth for the nation. Complementing healthcare as a core responsibility of a compassionate state is the design and management of the education system. Yes, there has been a jobs bonanza, almost full employment for those who seek jobs. But our education system must prepare the society for tomorrow, even as it strives to meet the daunting challenges of today. Our minister and the Ministry of Education is therefore embracing far-reaching reforms. The minister, his team, and I hope all stakeholders recognize that the current legal framework governing the education sector is over a decade old. This year's education budget will specifically cater to the imperative task of conducting a comprehensive review and revision of existing education legislation, regulations, and policies. This encompasses a thorough examination of frameworks governing education councils, commissions, and boards, with the overarching objective of reforming the system to address the evolving requirements of Belize's educational landscape. There is also the recent extension of the compulsory school age, which aligns seamlessly with the ministry's objective of broadening access to education, particularly through initiatives like the Education Upliftment Project, Together We Rise. The Upliftment Project currently targets intervention and support to 9 government-owned secondary schools, catering for approximately 3,174 students. These include Gwenliz, Excelsior, Maud Williams, C.D. Vernon Technical, the Agricultural and Natural Resources Institute, ANRI, the Lille Academy, Georgetown Technical, Corazon Creek Technical, and Toledo Community College. In the budget 2024-2025, government plans to add 12 more secondary schools to the program. Increasing coverage to a target of 6,000 additional students. The 12 additional schools include Belize Rural High, Ladyville Technical High, San Pedro High, Belmopan Comprehensive, Mopan Technical High, Valley of Peace SDA Academy, Shunush St. Viator Vocational High, Escuela Secundaria Técnica Mexico, Belize High School of Agriculture, finally Arinjoac Central, Arinjoac Technical High School, Bella Vista Government Secondary, and Julian Cho Technical High School. Madam Speaker, for those who are not aware, and I hope that the Minister of Education, when he speaks, can give a proper explanation. But basically in these schools, the government is paying everything for these students, and there should be no reason why any of these kids should not remain in school. Our outreach to 21 schools will have a meaningful impact on more than 9,000 secondary school students at an investment of more than $10 million, an estimated increase of $6.6 million from the 2023-2024. The government's National Healthy Start Feeding Program is doing wonders in reducing hunger in the classroom. Along with its donor partners, especially Taiwan, the National Health Start Feeding Program caters healthy meals for 4,000 primary school students from 35 schools and 2,967 secondary school students from 9 schools. These figures equal an investment of around $20,000 per day in meals. The number of beneficiaries keep increasing throughout the year, and it is expected that by the end of this academic year, at least 50 primary schools will be part of this program. Finally, to address the growing demand for increased access to science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics training, STEAM, the ITSA STEAM Academy, a government-owned secondary institution, opened its doors to 64 first-farm students and 9 teaching staff last September. ITSA offers a high school diploma with key subject concentrations in areas such as sustainable development projects, digital arts, fine arts, and science and technology, along with other subjects from the national curriculum at the secondary level. And I urge the Minister of Education to explain more to the Belizean people, because this is a game changer of what we're doing here in Belize. Again, the UDP METAC and the PUP build this school. The target for 2026 is to have a population of 300 students at all form levels. I have previously announced that Belize was selected after a period of assessment as a beneficiary of the U.S. government's Millennium Challenge Corporation. I now confirm that the Belize Compact Development Team under the Office of the Prime Minister has contributed to the preparation of a joint design document that defines the rationale and objectives for an education and energy project to be funded by the MCC. The projects were designed collaboratively with the Ministry of with the Ministry of Education, Culture, Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Energy and Public Utilities and relevant stakeholders, and with technical guidance and financial support from the MCC. The projects are scheduled to be implemented in the 5-year period 2025-2030. The total grant, free money, the total grant for the implementation of both projects is estimated to be $125 million US, or the equivalent of 4% of GDP. We anticipate that within the trajectory of Belize's socio-economic transformation, these two projects will have sweeping, high-impact programs as part of government's Plan Belize agenda for the administration of justice. government will introduce legislation to address needed criminal justice reform. These include legislation for plea discussion and plea agreement, alternative sentencing, and the criminal records rehabilitation of offenders. Together, these measures will ensure a more efficient system for the timely disposal of criminal cases. It will allow for greater focus on restorative justice. It will provide offenders who have served their sentence, paid their debt to society, and have not reoffended to reintegrate into society without the stigma of a criminal record inhibiting them for the rest of their lives. Ensuring that persons who should not be in prison are not there is part of the responsibility of government. This is an important balance a government must ensure is kept. Madam Speaker, every national budget involves countless hours of analysis and review for everyone involved. It is a delicate dance. Putting limited money to best use is not an easy process, since there will always be purposes and projects that do not make the final cut. As always, we are grateful to the public officers, elected representatives, and other stakeholders for their contribution to this effort. This year, I'm especially proud of how much has been achieved with the resources allocated in fiscal year 2023-24, and even more so with the dramatic potential for the allocations we tabled today. The pride I feel is a result of the last several months of personal engagement with Belizeans throughout the 7 towns and 2 cities that elected their municipal leaders on Wednesday. Meeting citizens on the streets, in their homes, in their schools, at their workplace or their business locations, visiting clinics and hospitals and construction sites, I have been completely enthralled by the optimism and the resilience of our people. And that optimism is attracting huge investments in this country. Beltrade envisions investments valued at $850 million for this fiscal year. An unprecedented surge in private sector spending. The forecast spans the spectrum of activities, with the majority being in tourism and hospitality, but also manufacturing, offshore outsourcing, agriculture, and the blue economy, and the blue and orange economy. No government is perfect. None gets everything perfect. There will be setbacks and flaws, but this administration, over the last 3 years of tireless work, has rekindled the hope in our people. This administration has put the shine back on this jewel, a jewel that has been stained and smeared by those who preceded us. Not that one, yeah. He was rejected. This administration has aroused the best of our people. Indeed, no budget can touch every citizen, but our people can see and feel that the impact of these investments, the $1.6 billion government proposes to invest into the medium term, dollars that will touch their lives in so many positive ways, whether that touch is at a clinic, or a hospital, or a school, whether it is by positive conduct of a nurse, a police officer, or a public officer, whether it's the birth certificate, or the passport, or the social security card, whether it is a salary, or pension, or gratuity, whether it's a housing lot, the new street or drain, or the new highway, the machine of governance oiled by this national budget will touch the lives of all the citizens we serve in so many ways. On the global canvas, of course, this budget advances our status as an independent nation state and fortifies our engagement with the region and the world. Madam Speaker, the UDP ran on successful election campaign where across our cities and towns they plastered posters saying PUP must go. We on the side agree wholeheartedly that the PUP must go on with the work of nation building. Wednesday's election results demonstrate convincingly that Belizeans today feel that the country is heading in the right direction. That's why our PUP candidates received 61% of the votes cast on Wednesday in municipal elections. 61%, even higher than the 58% our candidates received in the general election of 2020. Our party actually gained ground or defended our PUP share of the popular vote in 7 of 9 municipalities compared to 2021 municipal election. PUP gained in Belize City, in Corozal, in San Pedro and Burgosky, in Benquevio del Carmen, and in Dangriga. I must apologize in Orange Walk Central. We gone from 85% of the vote to 83% of the vote. And by the way, your mayoral candidate owe me a soft drink, you know. I never want chance. The mayoral candidate, I vote, it's at a beat, and he said, no, I don't want to take your money. We'll make we vote one soft drink. And he take the soft drink, well, I hope you pay me. In Belize City, the PUP gained ground in 5 of the 10 constituencies. We must go on from strength to strength in building greater confidence in our economy, in creating more jobs, in educating more for our children, in constructing more homes, in expansion of NHI, and in making our communities even safer. And so, I commend this budget to the National Assembly, satisfied that the Cabinet and I have been faithful to the guiding stars of social justice and national prosperity. This budget will underwrite another superb stage of our march to deliver on Plan Belize. And with the guidance of the Creator, we move ever forward as we stay on track. A pesar de todo, seguimos avanzando. I thank you. After acknowledging my uncle and my aunt who are here visiting, Tianelli and Tierol. The 20th, 21st, and 22nd March 2024, respectively, for the continuation of the debate on the General Revenue Appropriation 2024-2025 Bill 2024. Muchas gracias.
Honorable members, the question is that the continuation of the debate on the General Revenue Appropriation 2024-2025 Bill 2024 be on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 20th, 21st, and 22nd March 2024, respectively. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. Honorable members, before we proceed, I do ask for your indulgence in suspending the meeting for a minute so that the podium may be removed from the cabinet. I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment.
Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to amend the Customs and Excise Duties Chapter 48 of the Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to vary the rate of duty on refined white sugar and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. As we all know, Madam Speaker, right before Christmas, there was a scarcity of Belizean white sugar. Actually started as far back as October of 2023 and went on until January 2024. This happened because of the delays in the start of the sugar crop. And on 18th December 2023, the Ministry of Agriculture approved an import license for Belize Sugar Industries Limited to import 250 metric tons of refined white sugar. Since Belize is a member of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, the government is required to make a request in accordance with the revised Treaty of Chagaramas to CARICOM's Council for Trade and Economic Development, QUOTED, to suspend the duty on refined white sugar. On Belize's request, QUOTED granted approval on 16 January 2024 for the suspension of the CET on 250 metric tons of refined white sugar for the period 15 January 2024 to July 5, 2024, upon which the tariff rate reverts to the applicable common external tariff rate. As approval has been received, Belize must now update its customs tariff and trade classification first schedule to reflect the zero rating of duties on the approved tariff line. We need to do this simply to update its custom tariff and trade classification first schedule to refer the zero rating of duties on the approved tariff line. So, Madam Speaker, I ask the support of this Honourable House for this bill.
Honourable members, that bill is referred to the Finance and Economic Development Committee for examination, consideration and report.
Bill for an act to amend the Custom and Excise Duty Act, Chapter 48 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to vary the rate of duty on refined white sugar and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order number 49-1, I move that the bill be taken through all its stages forthwith. This is simply, Madam Speaker, this has already happened. The sugar has come in, we're done, we have consumed the sugar, and it's all we're doing is just normalizing what was approved earlier, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that the next stages of the bill be taken forthwith. All those in favour kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment.
Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to recognize and acknowledge the formation and existence of Finance Belize Limited as a private sector entity not for profit, limited by guarantee without share capital and non-political, to promote Belize as a financial services center, to grant it exemption from all taxes, duties, and other imports, and to provide for matters connected herewith or incidental to. Madam Speaker, just as an explanation, the ultimate goal here is to establish the financial services sector as another fundamental pillar for the Belizean economy, alongside tourism, business processing, outsourcing, and agriculture. By way of background, Madam Speaker, in May of 2021, Cabinet approved the establishment of a marketing arm or entity for the financial services sector to be known as Finance Belize. This is one of the recommendations of the Economic Recovery Advisory Team, who recommended that an entity to take on the mandate of marketing and promoting of the financial services sector. This entity would also be responsible for managing and supporting investor confidence by positioning Belize as a sound and safe jurisdiction to conduct business, which will support and contribute to the diversification and growth of the sector. Since the Cabinet decision, an advisory board for finance Belize was set up. The advisory board comprises representatives from the Belize International Services Financial Services Association, the Financial Services Commission, a non-resident registered agent, the Bar Association, the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants. The mandate of that advisory board is to get Finance Belize on its feet and commence the marketing and promotion efforts for the financial sector, services sector. During 2024, a strategic plan was prepared and approved by the advisory board, which led to the formal establishment of Finance Belize, a company limited by guarantee. I'm pleased to say, Madam Speaker, that Finance Belize Limited is now established and is in the process of commencing full operations in accordance with the strategic plan. A board of directors is currently being organized and will comprise of 8 members. A chairman of the board will be selected among these members. Despite the global pressures on the financial services sector over the last decade, adjustments in the sector are expected to continue, and it is expected that operations will continue to shift emphasis from larger financial centers towards new, smaller geographic regions like Belize for business growth. While Belize is presently a small financial center, the development of this sector could still have a major impact on the local economy as a significant and steady contributor to the country's GDP and foreign currency needs, while also providing higher paying skills employment opportunities for Belizeans. With the establishment of and operationalization of Finance Belize, we are now positioned to deliver on a strategy that is focused on delivering, marketing, and promoting the products and services offered by the jurisdiction, as well as building, managing, and then maintaining the jurisdiction's reputation as a premier financial services center. Madam Speaker, when a government acknowledges this value of a sector and commits to supporting it, enhance global presence and steady growth flows, while Belize and other small jurisdictions will always be at a size disadvantage within a global market, what really matters is the relative contribution to the local economy. This bill, which I commented to this Honorable House, Madam Speaker, is a concrete demonstration of my government's value of this sector, as well as its commitment to supporting, developing, and growing this critical sector. Madam Speaker, this bill has the recommendation of the Cabinet.
Honourable members, that bill is referred to the Finance and Economic Development Committee for examination, consideration, and report.
Bill for an act to recognize and acknowledge the formation and existence of Finances Belize Limited as a private sector entity, not for profit, limited by guarantee, without share capital, non-political, to promote Belize as a financial service center, to grant it exemption from all taxes, duties, and other inputs, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, Education, Culture, Science, Technology.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to provide for certain convictions to become spent and be expunged from criminal records, to provide against the disclosure of such convictions, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Madam Speaker, this bill has the recommendation of the Cabinet. When I move the second reading of the bill, I would provide a comprehensive explanation of the bill.
Honourable members, that bill is referred to the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee for examination, consideration and report.
Bill for an act to provide for certain convictions to become spent and be expunged from criminal records, to provide against the disclosure of such convictions, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
This is the Alternative Sentencing Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to repeal the Penal System Reform Alternative Sentencing Act, Chapter 102(1) of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, and the Probation of Offenders Act, Chapter 120 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to make new provisions relating to alternative sentencing and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. This bill has the recommendation of the Cabinet, and when I move the second reading, Madam Speaker, I will provide a full explanation of the purpose of the bill.
All members, that bill is referred to the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee for examination, consideration and report.
A bill for an act to repeal the Penal System Reform Alternative Sentencing Act, Chapter 102(01) of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, and the Probation of Offenders Act, Chapter 120 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to make new provisions relating to the alternative sentencing and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
This is the Criminal Procedure Plea Discussion and Plea Agreement Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of a system of plea discussions and plea agreements and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Madam Speaker, this bill has the recommendation of the Cabinet, and I will provide a full explanation of the bill when I move the second reading.
Honourable members, that bill is referred to the Constitution and Foreign Affairs Committee for examination, consideration and report.
Bill for an act to provide for the establishment of a system of plea discussion and plea agreement and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Motion relating to the business and sitting of the House.
I recognize the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I move that at its rising today, the House adjourned to Wednesday, 20th March, 2024 at 10 a.m.
Honourable members, the question is that the House at its rising today adjourned to Wednesday, 20th March, 2024 at 10 a.m. All those in favour kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Announcement by the Speaker.
Honourable members, it has been agreed that the Customs and Excise Duties Amendment Bill 2024 pass this day. As you are aware, under Standing Order Number 74, all proposed legislation, messages, petitions, motions and other matters relating to the subject mentioned under the title of each standing committee shall be referred by the House to such committee for examination, consideration and report to the House. For this to be done, other than by suspension of standing orders, is for me to suspend the sitting to enable the Finance and Economic Development Committee to examine, consider and report to the House on the bill. All those in favour kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. The sitting is therefore suspended until the Finance and Economic Development Committee has concluded its business.
Presentation of reports from committee.
I recognize the Honorable Chairperson of the Finance and Economic Development Committee.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present and lay on the table report number HR 248/1/13, report from the Finance and Economic Development Committee on the Customs and Excise Duties Amendment Bill 2024.
Honorable members, that report is ordered to lie on the table.
Public business, government business, motion.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, this is the official Charities Fund Motion 2024. I move, be it resolved, that this House approves the expenditure of $2,510,089 from the official Charities Fund as detailed in Appendix A of the Draft Estimates of Revenue and Expenditure for the year ending 31st March 2025. This motion has the recommendation of the Cabinet.
Honorable members, that motion is referred to the Committee of Supply for examination, consideration, and report.
Bill for second reading.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development, Investment.
Madam Speaker, this is the Customs and Excise Duties Amendment Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, I move the second reading of a bill for an act to amend the Customs and Excise Duties Act, Chapter 48 of the Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to vary the rate of duty on refined white sugar and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental to. Madam Speaker, just earlier, about an hour or so, I gave an explanation on this bill. Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to amend the Customs and Excise Duties Act, Chapter 48 of the Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to vary the rate of duty on refined white sugar and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto, be read a second time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
The bill for an act to amend the Customs and Excise Duty Act, Chapter 48 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to vary the rate of duty on refined white sugar and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Committee of the Whole House on Bill.
Honorable members, the House will now resolve into a Committee of the Whole House to consider the bill that was read a second time. I would like to ask visitors in the galleries to leave during this portion of the sitting.
Bill for third reading.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment.
Madam Speaker, I rise to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Customs and Excise Duties Amendment Bill 2024 and passed it without amendment. I now move the third reading of that bill.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to amend the Customs and Excise Duties Act, Chapter 48 of the Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to vary the rate of duty on refined white sugar and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto be read a third time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now. Oh, sorry.
The bill for an act to amend the Customs and Excise Duty Act, Chapter 48 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to vary the rate of duty on white sugar and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment.
Okay, my apologies, Madam Speaker. As I move the adjournment, again, let me just thank all Belizeans who have exercised their democratic duty on Wednesday. And what is commendable, Madam Speaker, more than anything else, that is that we could have these elections and sometimes get heated, you know, but it's mostly friendly banter. And but at the end of the day, the following morning, elections are over, and we need to continue the work. So I thank and congratulate all Belizeans that participated on Wednesday's municipal elections. Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
All members, the question is that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, kindly say aye. Those against, kindly say no. I think the ayes have it. The House, before I have the House adjourn, it was remiss of me not to publicly record the service of the former women presiding officers on this momentous day. And so I do like the record to reflect the service of the 3 other women presiding officers who have laid the foundation for myself and have given me much guidance. So I thank them. Thank you. Of course, I was just about to do that. Of course, that would be the Honorable Elizabeth Zabane, the Honorable Sylvia Flores, and Honorable Laura Tucker Longsworth. The House now stands adjourned.